Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to this Happy New Year, January 3rd, 2011, Morganton City Council meeting. It's always good to see so many distinguished guests in our audience. At this time, I'd like to start, because we're going to have a rather lengthy meeting tonight. I want to call on Sheldon Stevenson to lead us with our invocation.
As we begin a new year,
Happy New Year, Steve.
same to you, and the wondrous wonder of what's ahead of us, it seems to me that prayer is a good place to begin. So may we pray. Dear Lord God, as we face a great new year, may your dream and expectations for us, our city, our world, become our commitment, the commitment for each one of us. Where we are short-sighted, enable us to see beyond the horizon of our littleness. Where people suffer, let us sow love. Where people are sick, may we be instruments of healing. Where we ourselves have been hurt, may we willingly pardon and forgive. Where there's doubt in life's possibilities, Lord, let us have faith and live out your expectations for us. Where there's sadness in our human spirit, transform us with joy. When people around us are greedy and immoral in their ways, help us to be strong examples of goodness and generosity. Where there is violence, enable us to be instruments of peace. Where there are 1,000 differing points of view, show us the way to bring about a meaningful and a workable unity. Lord, may we dream your dream for us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Introduction of our City Council. On my far right is Dr. Alfred Hamer, City Councilman. City Councilman Forrest Fleming, Steve Settlemeyer, our City Attorney. I'm Mel Cohen, Mayor. Sally Sandy, City Manager. Larry Wistnut, City Councilman. John Cantrell, City Councilman. Kelly Russell, Recording Secretary. And Becky Brinkley, interpreting for our deaf community here in Burke County and Morganton. I've got 3 resolutions, and we're going to have one more for the First Lady that's going to be retiring. We have 3 people that are unbelievable city employees and have been for many, many years. And I'll start off with Terry Jordan. Terry, if you'd come to the microphone while I do this. Resolution honoring Terry Jordan. Whereas Terry L. Jordan was employed by the City of Morganton as a dispatcher in the Public Safety Department on July 18, 1983, reassigned as Communications Dispatcher on July 17, 1987, promoted to Public Safety Officer on July 25, 1988, transferred to Code Enforcement Division of Community Development Department on May 3, 1993, promoted to Code Enforcement Officer on July 18, 1993, promoted to Zoning Administrator on August 11, 1999, and reassigned to Development and Design Department on December 30, 2003. And whereas Terry L. Jordan has faithfully served the City of Morganton in the Public Safety and Development and Design Departments and has given of her time and efforts for the benefit of the citizens of Morganton for over 30 years and 5 months. And whereas Terry L. Jordan retired from the City of Morganton as Zoning Administrator in the Development and Design Department on January 1, 2011. And whereas the Morganton City Council wishes to officially recognize the contributions of Terry L. Jordan and express their appreciation for a job well done. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Morganton that the Mayor present this resolution to Terry L. Jordan, adopted this the 3rd day of January 2011. Mel Cohen, Mayor. Sally Sandy, City Clerk. And Martha Franklin, if you would come forward to that microphone and read your resolution from Community Appearance.
I'm Martha Franklin, and I have served for many years on the Morganton Community Appearance Advisory Commission and also the Clean City Committee. And I have a plaque that hangs over the threshold of my door that says Morganton. It just doesn't get any better than this. And that's the way we feel about Terry, and we just appreciate her so much. This certificate of merit says for responsive and dedicated service to the appearance and beauty of the city of Morganton, North Carolina, presented to Terry Jordan by the Morganton Community Appearance Advisory Commission and Clean City Committee. Thank you so much, Terry. We appreciate you.
Terry is one of those employees that's going to be difficult to deal with, her missing from City Hall, but we only have to be thankful for one thing. She's going to be back in February as a contract employee to help us out in our department, and she has done a tremendous job, and I needed you the day you retired, but we got it done. We got it done. You're welcome to say anything you want.
I just want to thank the mayor and the city council and our city manager for having had the opportunity to work for the city. I just wanted to tell, there are a couple of people, Harold Steins, Tony Wood, and Patricia Williams, and Larry Wisnett, who saw to it that I got to do what I wanted to do with the city, and I've been very privileged and proud to work for the city and call the city my second home or my second family. The quote says, you make a living by what you get, you make a life by what you give, and I just hope that I've given something to the city, and I know the city has given to me and the citizens, and I will miss for this short time working with folks, and I'll miss working full-time with all the citizens and with the staff, because the city is a great place to work. It's a great bunch of people. Everybody pulls together to see that everything gets done, and it's more like a family than it is a workplace. And you're not going to find a better place to work than the city, and the opportunity for retirement is wonderful, and I know that's what everyone works for, and there are very few organizations anymore that still offer that benefit to people. So it's a fine place to work, and offers us and affords us a wonderful opportunity for our future so that we can go on and continue our life. And I just want to thank everyone.
Thank you,
and the
Terry.
citizens of Morganton.
Butch McSwain, would you go to the microphone, please, sir? It's Clyde Z. Butch McSwain III. Goodness. So, resolution. By the way, I did the motion on Terry as I do on all of them, and I got a second from who seconded that? By the way, Steve wanted to know.
Larry did.
Larry seconded it. All in favor was aye. Okay. All right. Resolution honoring Butch McSwain III. Whereas Butch McSwain III was employed by the City of Morganton as Recreation Supervisor 2 in the Recreation Department on August 19, 1985. Promoted to Athletic Director on June 29, 1987. Promoted to Assistant Director of Recreation on March 16, 1992. Whereas Butch McSwain has faithfully served the City of Morganton in the Recreation Department and has given of his time and efforts for the benefit of the citizens of Morganton for 27 years and 6 months. And whereas Butch McSwain retired from the City of Morganton as Assistant Director of the Recreation Department on January 1, 2011, and whereas the Morganton City Council wishes to officially recognize the contributions of Butch McSwain and express their appreciation for a job well done, now therefore be it resolved by the City of Morganton that the mayor present this resolution to Butch McSwain, adopted this the 3rd day of January 2011, Mel Cohen Mayor, Sally Sandy City Clerk. Make this in the form of a motion. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
People say I never asked for a no, but you know, with you, I might have asked for a no. Butch, you have, as we talked about you at your retirement party, I don't know of anybody that's as even tempered as you are. I'd like to make you mad tonight so that all these people can see you mad, but it's hard to make you mad.
Should I stick around for the later?
Yeah, stick around for the public hearing. Thank you, Butch.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Just real briefly to expound on what Terry said, and I do want to thank this body. It has been wonderful to be a part of the team that has created what we have in this town, particularly in Parks and Recreation. And without your support and the director that we have, Gary, that would have all not been a bit possible. And it has been also a joy to watch your children and some of your grandchildren now participate in our activities and mine. And it was time when I started having guys come up and tell their children, this is the guy that was here back when I was your age, and that started dating things. So again, thank you for the opportunity. We're not going anywhere, so if there's anything I can do, please
Thank you.
don't hesitate to let me know.
Thank you a
Thank
lot.
you.
And Jimmy, I've known you all your life and your family, and I want to tell you that, come up to the mic, but I'm going to read your resolution, but I'm going to say this in front of the chief, and I said it in front of the manager. You're the finest dispatcher I've ever seen, and I mean that sincerely. I'm going to miss you on the other end of the telephone. I mean it. Resolution honoring James Taylor. Whereas Jimmy Taylor was employed by the City of Morganton as dispatcher in the Public Safety Department on August 29, 1994, reassigned as telecommunicator on July 1, 2004. And whereas Jimmy Taylor has faithfully served the City of Morganton in the Public Safety Department and has given his time and efforts for the benefit of the citizens of Morganton for 17 years. 17 years and 1 month. I'm sorry. And whereas Jimmy Taylor retired from the City of Morganton as telecommunicator in the Public Safety Department on January 1, 2011. And whereas the Morganton City Council wishes to officially recognize the contributions of Jimmy Taylor and express their appreciation for a job well done. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Morganton that the mayor present this resolution to Jimmy Taylor, adopted this the 3rd day of January 2011. Mel Cohen Mayor, Sally Sandy City Clerk. And I'll tell you that dispatchers are very hard to find all over the country. I mean, I hear about it, and you have filled that position here, and you've done it as a professional, and I greatly appreciate it. Make it in form of a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Did it really seem like it had been 27 years to you? I'd like to thank the city for the opportunity to work at public safety and for the city. Feel really lucky to have met such a fine group of people.
Thank you, Jimmy. A service pin. Can't imagine, 20 years. Sharon, come to the mic, please.
I'm just hurt you don't have one more retirement.
Congratulations on what you have done with our downtown area. It's made us the envy of people all across the country, and I mean that sincerely. You're welcome to say anything you'd like.
That's okay, I'll keep it brief. As I agree with everybody, it is an honor to work for the city, and I am very thankful every day for the support that I have from mayor and council, and I'm equally as thankful for the support that I have from the citizens, and I do recognize that support, and thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. I'd like to make a couple of comments. We lost two people, one particularly in this community, just as the new year turned, in Billy Joe Patton. And Ron Green in the Charlotte Observer, Ron Green Sr. in the Charlotte Observer wrote a tremendous article, Sunday's paper. And I'm going to tell you that it states the man. And anywhere I've gone all over the country, when I was president of the North Carolina Municipal, the City League of Cities, and they would always ask you where you're from, and I'd say Morganton, North Carolina. And most people today are golfers, although I gave it up 30 years ago, but most people will remember Billy Joe Patton and his awesome, awesome game. And we lost an icon in our community, and I want you to keep his family, Billy Joe's family, in your thoughts and prayers. A person that I dealt with considerably back in the early 90s and late 80s died also, and his funeral was today, as Billy Joe's was today, is Roger Milliken, and I know there are people in the audience that know that name, but he was a staunch anti-NAFTA and CAFTA person in America, spent a tremendous amount of money, and I know I dealt with his lobbyists considerably back when NAFTA was being sent through the Senate and the House when we were trying to lobby our different, all over the country, making phone calls and trying to get people not to vote for NAFTA, and then CAFTA came along. But this gentleman was, and to tell you what kind of person he was, he supported financially, what is his name, Pat Buchanan, for president in the Republican Party, of course. And you know, Pat didn't get too far, but Roger supported him, and they had been friends for many years. But he had also a big article in the Charlotte Observer, and these people that have done so much in our country and our community are leaving us, and leaving us rather quickly. And but I want you to keep that in mind. Roger Milliken was adamantly against NAFTA and CAFTA, and look what it's done to our community. Look what it's done to our county and around our state. Okay, municipal power?
Nothing at this time.
Consent agenda.
Can I say one thing under
Yeah.
public advocacy? I'd like to thank the city crews for the work over the Christmas holiday and cleaning up the snow and getting the city back in service again. And they did that over the Christmas weekend. And the rest of the departments, public safety, utilities, electric, everybody that supported that effort.
She took my thunder. I was going to talk about that a little bit later when I talk to many of these fine ladies and gentlemen that are here tonight to talk to us. Consent agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda before you tonight has 2 items included on it. That is the approval of the minutes from the December 6th meeting and tax releases in the amount of $8,646.96. And would ask the council to consider approving those in one motion unless somebody would like to have an item removed.
Make
We
a-
accept the consent agenda as presented.
Sorry.
Have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Again, we've got a clipboard with a sheet on it. I need everyone, regardless of who you're with, to sign in for us, please, and put the company that you're with. Even one standing in the back of the room. We have a lot of chairs up here. Come on up front. I don't want you to stand up too long. Hey, Ed, tell the distinguished gentleman in the black coat to come on up front. All right. Sharon, you want to up here?
I just want to take a moment to make sure that everyone is aware of the Burke Business Loan Program. Councilman Fleming serves with me on the VDEC board, which is the Valdez Economic Development Investment Corporation. As many of you may know, we received through the Golden Leaf Program $250,000 to use as a revolving loan program. We're trying to get the word out. I believe everybody is represented at all the town councils tonight to let folks know that this loan is for all of Burke County businesses, not for any one particular downtown or any city or anything like that. That this is for businesses all across Burke County. The maximum loan is for $25,000. Yes, that's correct. And the first round is out, and the first applications have to be due in by January 15th. This is only the first round. It is not our intentions to give all the money out. We don't feel that much will be requested. However, if you need any assistance, you can go to any of your local town halls. You can come to the City of Morganton through the Main Street office. I will leave a couple of packages at the front desk with Nancy as well so that they can be picked up. There is a website that they can go to. The easiest way at this point would be to call the Main Street office at 438-5252. So please, this is to assist people with expansion or with new startups.
Anywhere in the city of Morganton?
Anywhere in Burke County.
Burke County.
Burke County.
Okay,
Anywhere in Burke County.
very good.
All right, thank you.
Now, I have Lamanna Duckworth, who's on their appearances a little bit later on, our tax collector. She's going to do her presentation right at the end. New business, other items, consideration of the 2010-11 audit contract. Sally.
This is for the second year in the 3-year contract, with Eric Bowman to perform the annual audit required by the general statutes. The amount of the contract is $30,900. We need to approve the contract and send it to the local government commission so they can approve it.
I move we approve the 2010-2011 audit contract with S. Eric Bowman in the amount of $30,900.
Second. All right, we have a motion second. Any discussion of the contract? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, last item, consideration of firefighter certification roster. Sally.
Annually, we are required to certify, like all other fire departments, a complete roster of our eligible firemen. And this is indeed that roster that goes, we file this with the state each year. It is included in your packets and need to ask you to give approval of that so we can send it to the state.
I make a motion to approve the 2010 annual certification of firefighters for the city of Morganton.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now comes to the good time. Sonny Martin's here. Wayne Martin, for all those that don't know him by Sonny Martin. Wayne, you don't want to come up front? No. So sit up here in front. Let me tell there is a clipboard, and it's very important, by the way, that I get you to sign in, regardless of who you're with, even if you're here to listen to the retirees or whatever. Sign your name and the company you represent, please. It's very important. Now, let me tell you the way we're going to do the public hearing. And CF, by the way, CF Hopkins.
This is not technically.
No, that's what I was getting ready to say. It's not technically a public hearing because
and for your TV audience, they don't know what you're talking about yet.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of bring them up to what we're going to talk about here.
what we're going to do is we're going to hear discussion from Lamanna, tax collector, and myself, and then the audience, based on the privileged tax information that had been sent out to all the businesses in the city of Morganton, not in Burke County, but in the city of Morganton. And I'm not going to get into my dissertation now. I'm going to wait till after Lamanna. But when we do, the public's not aware, and it's on live TV, CF, so be nice. But we are going to ask you to come to the microphone, and I'll let you come on your own. State your name, the company you represent, and where you reside. 3 things, because we just need to know where you reside. Make it easier for us to make sure the recording and everything comes out properly. The clipboard is going around again. I want everybody please to sign it for me. All right, Lamanna.
Yes, sir.
I'll let you make a presentation.
Good evening. I'm Lamanna Duckworth and the tax collector for the city of Morganton. I've been asked to help administer the new privilege license billing system, which includes a gross receipt calculation. The city has been working closely with a revenue enhancement firm to determine and develop methods to increase revenues during a time of reduced tax base, modest growth, and declining city revenues. Various suggestions to updating service and fee schedules have been reviewed, and the suggestion was made to update the current privilege license schedule. The decision to replace the current system was based on several factors. The number one factor was the need to revise an outdated privilege license schedule, and also the need for a more diverse revenue system for the city. This updated revenue schedule will assist the city in providing continued quality services in an extremely tight budget season. In the past, ad valorem tax it was a leading and substantial part of the city's budget, but this has changed. In order to avoid a substantial tax rate increase, all other revenues were left to be reviewed in order to create a functional variety of revenues to continue a quality service. The new schedule of fees was passed by City Council on December 6, 2010, and replaces the current flat rate system, which has been utilized by the city since 1966, as stated per city ordinance. The flat rate billing system has only been changed over these years as required by law according to repeals. The new billing system will be in effect as of January 1, 2011, and is comparable to gross receipt schedules that are being used by Hickory, Hendersonville, Lenoir, Pineville, and Charlotte. The schedule consists of a three-part schedule, which includes a Schedule A, which is the gross receipt reporting fee schedule, Schedule B, which are fees restricted by North Carolina general statutes, and Schedule C, which are unique charges that are set by city ordinance. Gross receipt reporting will be applicable to all retail merchants, wholesale merchants, and manufacturers. Gross receipts include all earnings, receipts, fees, rentals, commissions, cost of production, and income as reported on the most recent federal income or tax return. This fee replaces the flat fee of, this fee places a flat fee of $25 on the first $1 million reported. The privilege license fee for income over $1 million is based on a calculation of 60 cents per thousand. At this time, the minimum paid would be a $25 fee, and there is no maximum set. The decision was made to begin this new fee schedule January 1, 2011, in hopes this would introduce the concept slowly instead of beginning July 1, 2010. This will also provide a statistical base for the city in order to review the actual estimated revenues which will be received under the new schedule. The first billing is a half-year billing, which is valid through June 30th of 2011. An additional revenue of approximately $50,000 was included in the city's budget passed in June of 2010, based on the implementation of this new billing system for half the year. Businesses will renew their license on this fee schedule for a complete fiscal year beginning July 1, 2011. The majority of businesses in Morganton will not see a change or see very little change in the amount that they annually pay for a privilege license. This change will actually compensate for inequity between larger retail stores and the smaller local businesses. With the current flat fee schedule, the large retailers, which basically dominate the market, were paying the same fee as a smaller local business. The change will create a privilege license fee that is assessed more fairly, determined on gross income of a business. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Lamanna, thank you for your presentation, and you can have a seat. And
Okay.
what I want to do is, I'm going to make comments. Huh?
Do you want to see an example?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, show an example, yeah.
Okay. Okay, first of all, we have the actual privilege license fee schedule that was passed as of December 6th. Chad, will you bring up the fee schedule, the new fee schedule? Schedule A. Okay. That is the Schedule A part of it, and that is the gross receipts part that is subject to merchants, manufacturers, wholesales, and services. And then we have a Schedule B part, which the Schedule B charges, it's very important to understand that those are set by North Carolina general statute, and according to the specific business operations under Schedule B, that is all we're allowed to charge. And then we have Schedule C, which are going to be a very few unique charges. The whole main issue and the main point was to get away from all of the random charges, the small random charges, and just concentrate on Schedule A, Schedule B. And then, of course, we have exemptions, which is the final part of it. Chad, can you bring up the exemptions, the very bottom part?
That's all I've got.
Okay. Okay. Well, the exemptions are specifically set by North Carolina general statute, specific professions that are exempt from any kind of privilege license tax by the city. So I have a list of those if anybody wants to see them.
By the way, attorneys are on that list, okay?
Okay. And also I was asked to provide an example of what a large retail store would have paid under a flat business license fee. Chad, will you bring up the example of the, we called it a superstore, flat fee. Okay. So I think there was a misconception, maybe that a superstore would only pay $50 for a chain store. But actually, they, even under the flat fee system, they paid individually for each specific business they conducted within their large business. So that's an example of a large retailer, what they would pay under our old flat fee system. And next we have what the same store would pay under the gross receipts, which anything that is mandated by general statute would still be the same Schedule B charge, and they would pay for those specific businesses that they conduct. It would still be under the Schedule B billing. Schedule C, I believe they had, the example we used had one item under there, Christmas tree sales, which is a seasonal sale. That was left at $15. And all other sales and service fall under the gross receipt calculation in addition to the charges listed under Schedule B and C. So the very end shows an example of a large retail store, like a superstore, of what they would end up paying under the new gross receipts billing.
It is $75 million.
Thank you, Lamana.
Thank you.
All right, let me make some comments to the audience. And I'm going to make a motion. Don't let me forget, Steve, when I finish my comments. Lamana gave the example of what the motion that was made last month on how we did the privilege license fee. But I want to let you know that the consensus of the council, until we vote, of course, it's not official, is that we're going to delay. Now, when I say delay, we're going to delay you sending a check in. But we are not going to delay on getting the January 31st deadline application or the form that you have in your possession at work. We do need that because we're going back to the drawing board. We're going to use the info that you give us in conjunction with all the towns, and she mentioned a few towns, but we've got an abundance of North Carolina towns that are doing the privilege license in different forms. I mean, they're doing it in different ways. Every town almost is doing it a different way. But we're going to take your statistics and put them with town statistics and see what we can come up as a fair fee schedule for everyone in this room. Now, granted, I've never seen yet where a political group can make a decision that everybody's happy with. But we're going to try and do our dead level best to come up with something that everybody can be happy with, and let you know that that's going to start immediately after the 31st of January. So I do need you to send that in, and hopefully you're on the list, by the way, by signing that you're here. Let me say a few things to you. I'm going to make that in the form of a motion that we're going to delay and revise the numbers that were sent out to many in the audience, plus all the other businesses in Burke County and the city of Morganton. I make that in the form of a motion. We're going to delay it, probably be until probably March 1st or so, and you'll hear from us. And I promise you that this council will be fair, and I hope you'll be fair to us.
March 7th.
March 7th?
Would be the March council meeting.
Okay.
A second.
Okay.
You're delaying collection.
Delaying collection. I only want the
Kelly's
form.
going to have to write the motion that you've made. So you.
Yeah.
We
I'm
need to make it
delaying. You
clear.
do not send a check. Some people have already done that, by the way. Some chain stores, I call them chain stores, some superstores, they've already sent us a check. They're so automatic because so many towns across America are doing privileged license fees much like we were doing and are going to do. So I want you to understand it's not weird. It's just that we should have done it in 1970 or 1980 or 1990. But those were good times in the city of Morganton. We didn't need an alternative revenue source for helping out your city and provide services to you and to your employees. So I made a motion and we had a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so you understand, send your form in. We need to receive it by the date on the paper of January 31, and no check. And those that have sent us checks, which we thank y'all greatly for, if there's any credit, we will give you a credit as time goes on. Let me say a few things to you. Sally mentioned earlier, not every town in America and some of the largest cities in America did not remove snow on the weekend after we had 8 inches here in Morganton, us in Statesville. And I had 4 phone calls from non-native citizens because the native citizens expect us to do it. The non-native citizens come from towns that they don't get that kind of service. But our people went out on Sunday and graded streets in the city of Morganton, Saturday. And also picked up garbage on Monday, a holiday. So we try to do the right thing. We have a fantastic group of employees, department heads, staff that care about our great community. And I want you to understand that we're not trying to abuse our businesses. We will readdress everything. You can feel certain of that. Anybody can call me. I'm surprised I didn't get more calls than I did on the privilege license fee that was sent out. Lamanna, I think you sent a letter out today asking for the same thing I'm asking for, is to return the form but not the check. Tomorrow. Okay, and because we passed it. Return the form but not the check. Let me tell you that our ad valorem property taxes have been shrinking, and there's no doubt about it. Fire and police is costing us $6.8 million approximately. A lot of money. But, you know, I'm going to make a comment like 3 or 4 Fridays ago. Downtown, we lost a building. We could have lost a block, an entire block. But we had minutes reaction from our public safety department. The first responder was a policeman, public safety officer, has the gear in his trunk. So I want you to know you're dealing with a city that knows what we're trying to provide for you. We cannot cut back on public safety. We have to be certified, as we did a few minutes ago in our agenda. $6.8 million goes to fire and police. 1993, industry, which most all of you in this room represent, were 22% of our tax value. Today, you're 13%. So when you talk tonight to us, I need you to tell us how you can replace that. That's why the privilege license is one of the things that we went to, because it's what other towns are going to all over the country. In 3 budget years, our general fund, it's where we put the taxes. We reduced our general fund because some people have asked me on the telephone, have we tightened our belt? We had cut our budget $6.6 million, a 26% reduction in our city budget. Let me tell you that the 3 people that retired tonight Jimmy's still in the audience, phenomenal employees. Butch McSwain, can't replace him. Terry Jordan, you can't replace Terry Jordan. I needed her, as I say, the day she left, I needed her. They're not going to be replaced. Terry's coming back under contract, and you know what, being in business, what contractors are. Won't be any benefits. So you got to understand, we have a business to deal with up here, so it's a double-edged sword. We're listening to our friends out in the audience, our BDI members, our Burke Economic Development Group. But our sales taxes are dwindling. Everybody's still going to Hickory, Charlotte, and Asheville to shop. Went from 2 to 3 million. 3 to 2 million, I'm sorry. Franchise taxes are being reduced. So it's not about me. It's about we. Please understand that. It's about all of us. So we're not going to hurt you, I promise. We made that motion tonight. You can go home and rest assured we're not going to hurt you. Anybody wants to call me, they can call me, or any one of the city council members. Now, I've opened up this meeting because it's not a public hearing. CF asked me on the telephone the other night, can I sign up? I said, it's too late. You have to do it prior to our city council meeting, a number of days prior. But I've never turned anybody back, and I'm here to tell you that my pajamas are on underneath my sport coat. Wayne, we'll be here. You'll be long in bed. We've got a microphone here, and I would like for you to come to the microphone, state your name and the company you represent and where you reside. And then when you see him come up here and leave, someone please come to this mic. Public hearing is open. Well, it's not a public hearing, but the hearing is open.
Public comment.
Comments.
Good evening. Michael Fullenwider, represent Fullenwider Enterprises. I live at 101 Terrace Place, and I'd like to thank you guys for hearing what we have to say tonight. And before I get started, if someone could help me understand, I'm trying to figure out if I'm exempt or not. I've read that thing 3 or 4 times, and I mean, honestly, I get confused, and I've heard it. I've got restaurants that have 5 or more seats, and I have a convenience store. Our company does, Fullenwider Enterprises. So help me, because I mean,
I'll be
I would
glad to
appreciate it.
try. As far as the restaurants, those are they're protected by Schedule B.
Okay.
Of course, it'll be the same charge, $42.50 for
Right.
5 or more seats. Now, any additional business that the restaurant may do, and I'm just giving examples, like say, and I'm not saying your restaurant, but for example, a restaurant that may sell T-shirts and candy and gum and this and that and the other. The restaurant $42.50 would include the restaurant business. Now, any other business could be subject to or would be subject to the gross receipts.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And what about convenience stores? Tell.
Okay, convenience stores, it's really the same concept. The gas sales are exempt by statute. However, any other business that's conducted, the retail sales within a convenience store is subject to gross receipts.
Okay. So the groceries.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
clarification. So we're not as exempt as I thought we were. Okay. Well, from an economic standpoint, my opinion of this is that the tax will be harmful. I'm concerned about how it would be perceived to the outside communities. I think it's going to create a negative marketing environment for our city. I mean, when you compare, I believe, say, a Lincolnton that doesn't have a privilege tax, I believe I have that information correct, with, say, us that will put in this new system. In light of what you guys have said, I know you're here, you're going to review everything and delay in this whole process. You know, I'm concerned about the incentives for for companies to come into our community. Now, that being said, I do have a few questions, and hopefully you guys could...
Michael, before you get in your questions,
Yes,
do
sir.
you have any stores in Hickory?
We do. Yes, sir, we do.
They've been taxed for 16 years.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Same figure that we used originally
Sure.
was the figure that they've used for 16 years.
And I understand that. My concern is in today's environment, economic world, putting on a tax on any business above and beyond what we're paying right now is a burden that'll be very difficult to take on. But let me get into
Okay.
some of my questions, but thank you. How much of an impact are you guys budgeting for tonight? I mean, in the budget for this privilege license? What kind of revenue stream did you guys expect to see?
For this half year, we budgeted $50,000
Okay, so annualized, it would
based
be,
on what the consultant gave us.
okay, it would be 100, right?
Yeah, it was about 122.
Okay. This weekend, I took a look at the budget, just thought I'd have some fun. Maybe see if I could see some stuff that we could take a look at. Now, I noticed that in that budget, the privilege license revenue went from 57 to 239. I assume that must be other. What else is involved in that?
132,000 of that was a one-time revenue based on the video gaming businesses and the one-time opportunity to collect that in this year.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. So how many businesses in the community do you guys estimate that this would impact?
I don't know how many are in the database.
Probably, I mean, when we were initially trying to think of how many businesses it would affect, it was around 20 probably.
How many?
20 is what we were estimating.
No, he's wanting to know in the database, the whole, where you say.
You need to come
That aren't exempt.
They can't hear you.
Yeah, come to the microphone, Lamana.
That's part of the challenge because you really don't know. I mean, we have no clue what your gross receipts are.
Sure.
And one of the things that was looked at back in the spring, and the reason that the $1 million exemption was included, is that lets some of your smaller local businesses keep paying the same amount that they are.
Right.
And that was what we were led to believe would be something reasonable. Now, when we compare that to what other places do, some places do more than that, and some places do much less than that.
Right.
That's something that's really hard to determine until you see what makes up your businesses, because I don't have a clue.
Okay.
Lamana, how many privilege licenses do you issue?
We issue around 1,500.
Okay.
And now that includes.
I think that's what he was
Yeah,
asking.
that's what you're asking.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, you ran through an example on the screen for everybody, or put one up on the screen, and I ran through a couple myself, but a $20 million business is not exempt. It's going to see an additional $11,400 in tax. If it's $30 million, you're looking at $17,100. Is there not a less offensive manner that we can raise this money? Can we look at? I know you guys look at cost cutting all the time, but is there not something else that we could possibly look at?
Give us a call.
Okay. Well, I happened to look at a few things this weekend, and I'd like to run some things by you. Like I said, I went through the budget, and I saw a couple sections that I just had some ideas. I would run them by you guys, see what you'd say. So, I noticed that the community house, last year we required a $96,700 transfer, and according to your letter, Sally, this year it'll be $96,535. An idea that I have is, why don't we privatize it? Why do we continue to bear that cost? Let the private sector, somebody in the private sector, run the community house as a restaurant.
We're looking at that.
That's great. Great. Okay.
In fact, one of your former employees consulted with us.
Oh, okay. Who was it? Took a look at cable. I've noticed that the cable's required a transfer in each of the last 3 fiscal years. Good news, debt service is burning off next year.
Paid off.
This year.
Fantastic, fantastic. How are the telephone sales going?
Pretty well. About 350 customers.
Okay.
Counting.
What would that? I mean, I know you projected 452,000 for the year. I don't know what that would translate to. Just if you ballpark, what do you think?
I really have no idea because I don't know when they all came on. But I will tell you that the revenue and the expense side is based on a certain number. So if your number doesn't go up, your expense goes down as well.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you guys this. AT&T's coming up with this new U-verse where they bundle everything and they're coming into our community. How do you think we can, little Morganton, compete with a big company like AT&T with that kind of a package? For me, that's a concern. Go ahead.
Tried to call them? You ever tried to call them with a complaint?
AT&T? No.
Well, I mean, I had their telephone until I bundled, and you can't get a hold of them. But we hope to do it in service. But that's not the gospel. In other words, there may be things, Michael, that we'll do in the future. But those are things that we're looking at all the time. I mean that sincerely.
Well, good. Okay. Similar with the community house, my suggestion is why don't we look at privatizing cable as well? I know we've almost paid off the debt service, which is great, but obviously those are proceeds we could generate for this community. Moving on, tax collection. See that we're projecting a net cost of $94,199 for 2010, 2011. Could we not possibly have the county collect, save some money there? Is that a possibility?
Possible.
Any, I mean, I'm not sure, but any idea what that might save us? Sally?
We looked at that before, and there's a 2% administrative fee that the county would charge us to process our taxes. So it would be whatever we cut out less their 2% charge.
Plus, we been very fortunate. Lamont has done a unbelievable job. We get 99% collection, and they get about 96,
That's great.
maybe 95.
That's great.
But we have looked at that, and that is something else, but it would depend on what we would eliminate on our side, plus what it would cost for the 2% administrative fee.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. One last item I looked at that I thought we could possibly consolidate, and I know you've heard this before, but the elections budgeted
I thought
cost.
you were going to say that.
Budgeted cost of $31,200. Can we save money by having the county put on those elections?
Of course.
Can we look at it?
We always
Can I
do.
explain how that works too?
Yes, ma'am.
That 31 in this year's budget is related to equipment purchases and required changes in that by the state board. Every other year, when we would have an election, like actually next budget year would be our actual election.
Mm-hmm.
So next year we would be budgeting an election's usually around 15, 20,000, somewhere in that range for us. And so in the election year, we would only pay what the county charged. In other
Okay.
words, there would be a fee, they would have to quote a fee.
Sure.
They would pay for that. And so the savings would be the difference in those two. The savings in the equipment purchase would be 100%. We wouldn't have to have that outlay.
Right.
We would just be paying in the fee they would charge us to help pay for the equipment that they
Now,
would buy.
did you say what the cost of machines were, or
That 31.2 in this year's budget is for the new equipment,
that's for new equipment?
and $1,200 worth of required training for the board.
Okay. Okay.
That's a new piece of equipment to conduct the election, but it's not all new equipment. We're not
Right.
buying all new equipment. We still have an election system in
Sure.
place.
Okay.
The state board of elections has simply mandated a new computer part of the system so that they can interface with us easier, as I understand it.
And Michael, there's been looking at it for almost after Alfred and John's election. We've been, Steve and I and several people have looked at it, and one thing I'll mention to you, and you read the newspaper every day, I'm sure, News Herald and particularly the Charlotte Observer, there have been problems by the State Board of Elections. I don't have to tell you. And those are concerns of ours. A lot of concerns over the way the county machines, older people had trouble with the
Electronic.
county machines.
Right.
Our machines were never a problem. So we're going to talk about it and work with some people on it. And we would hope maybe they could use our machines.
Okay.
That's an answer.
Okay.
Because we have a different kind of election.
Sure. Well, after looking at each four of those sections and the savings that we talked about, whether you adopt them or not, if you were to adopt what I had proposed, you're looking at a $350,000 savings, which is 3.5 times the additional revenue that you budgeted for or projected for 2010, 2011. So I'm just of the opinion that raising any taxes, doing anything at this point in time, will be much more detrimental than doing nothing. And then we need to really look at the cost side of things, which I know you guys already have. I think we need to continue to hammer it down. It's like we do in our own personal business. We continue to hammer our costs down. And with that, that's all I have. I do want to thank you guys for listening to what I had to say tonight. I'm sure I'm not the last. There'll be other people, but thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. Oh, yeah, you want to hand us something? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I promise to be good. This may take a while, so I brought water.
Told you I got my pajamas on.
All right, I do too. To the Honorable Mayor, Sandy, to all City Council. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. It's C.F. Hopkins, 201 Woodland Drive, here in Morganton. Okay, all right. I'd like to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity to speak. And Mr. Mayor, I promise you I'll be good, okay? 100 years from now, history will show that your group has helped lead this community through some of the darkest economic times ever experienced. Every state, county, parish, municipality, borough, and village in the United States experience the same. These are indeed economically challenging times, probably only surpassed by the Great Depression. Unfortunately, the former presidential candidate, Mr. Ross Perot's famous quote, "That giant sucking sound is our country giving away our jobs," has come to pass. For the last 30 years, our leaders in Washington, D.C., on both sides of the aisle, have made very poor decisions for our country. There are thousands of reasons this country is in the shape it's in with this tremendous debt. But some of the largest are entitlements, pork barrel spending, unscrupulous banking, SEC turning a blind eye on Wall Street, absurd government regulations, and the final blow, especially to this community, NAFTA. Our politicians have literally broken the backbone of this country. America is broke, operating on borrowed money. Many states, counties, municipalities are on the brink of bankruptcy. Our children are going to inherit this deficit. I would dare say that everyone in this room has a story to tell of their own plight, especially these last 3 or 4 years. From my personal experience at Hardwoods in Morganton, I have had 3 series of layoffs in the last 10 years. In 2009, I lost 2 of my partners due to heavy salary cuts. My 90-year-old company has seen 80 to 90% of our business outsourced to China, Vietnam, Mexico, India, Thailand, Pakistan, and many third world countries. 2 of our largest accounts, Henry Don Furniture and Drexel Furniture, accounted for nearly 20% of our business. They no longer manufacture wood product in the United States. The closing of these same 2 businesses have also had a profound impact on local residents and our economy. We all understand this big picture. To quote the cover letter of Ms. Duckworth on December 7th from the letter that she sent out to the community, on December the 6th, 2010, the Morganton City Council approved a change in the structure of the city's privilege fee schedule, implementing a new sliding scale. The new Lexicon Webster's Encyclopedia Dictionary Deluxe Edition describes fee as a payment for the services of a professional man or a public body. As we know, Mr. Robert Siegel, CPA, PA, has been working within the city to, quote, develop ways to increase revenue during the time of declining city revenues. This is a quote from line item 13 of the December 6th City Council meeting. Mr. Siegel has apparently enlightened the city to an obscure North Carolina General Statute 160A-211. Per the minutes again of the City Council meeting, the state authorizes the city to levy privilege taxes on all trades. Isn't it strange that GS, government statute 160A-211, authorizes the privilege taxes on all trades, occupations, and businesses? In that same Webster's Dictionary, the word all is described as the whole quantity, and the whole sum of. But apparently the word all can be reinvented if you're a self-serving bunch of politicians in Raleigh 100 years ago. Obviously, at this point, what I'm referring to is the exemption status of some businesses on the bottom of Mrs. Duckworth's new fee schedule. I'll not bore you with those 39 exempt status businesses. You can read them yourself. This brings me to the word tax. That same Webster's Dictionary. Tax is a charge on a person's income or property. Direct tax is the price of goods sold. Indirect tax is made by the government to collect revenue, which I believe this is an indirect tax. Don't we all pay direct taxes? Sales tax on items bought? Don't we all pay federal and state income taxes? But why in the world are a selected few now having to pay an indirect tax while others are exempt? Where is the fair and equitable? That's in that cover letter. As many as you know, there was a meeting at my office on December the 30th of local businesses. This was a hastily organized meeting so that we could discuss the ramifications of the new fair and equitable means for the city privilege license. Please let me make 3 points perfectly clear. I'm not here to represent any of the businesses that met at my office. I'm not here trying to change GS 160A-211. It's the law. They made me throw out it is what it is. What I am doing is questioning Mr. Robert S. Siegel, CPA, PA's analysis that amending the privilege license ordinance to provide a privilege license tax to be imposed on large retailers, quote, primarily big box retail chains based on percentage of gross receipts. Again, quote from paragraph 3, City Council meeting December the 6th. At my office on December the 30th, there was not one big box store. However, there were manufacturers, supply companies, small private businesses totaling over $150 million revenue. And I'm being conservative, it's probably 180. There were even a couple of businesses attending that were under Schedule B. They found fault in the unfairness of this new privilege license fee structure. I do not believe that Mr. Siegel's recommendations are conducive to the efforts of small business. I've given you a schedule for what other cities in North Carolina charge business that fall under the gross receipt schedule. That's what I just handed out. I'll be more than happy to read that, or you guys can read it for the whole group. Would you like me to do that? I mean, okay.
You've got the
cool.
floor, sir.
Let me find that page. I'm not going to give you the calculation sheets. I'm just going to read you the business privilege license schedule, gross receipts. City of Morganton, no maximum cap. City of Lenore, no maximum cap. City of Albemarle, no maximum. City of Hickory, $2,000. City of Fayetteville, no maximum. City of Kannapolis, $10,000. Wholesalers, $10,000. City of Wilkesboro, they are presently looking, they're based on flat fees, but they're presently looking at gross receipts. City of Greensboro, $1,200. City of Greenville, North Carolina, $2,000. City of Marion, North Carolina, have not implemented new schedule based on gross receipts, have talked about it, but table instead. They did go up on retail stores based on the number of employees. City of Hendersonville, no max. City of Mooresville, $5,000. City of Wilson, $7,500. City of Salisbury, $3,000. City of Reedsville, currently based on flat fees. City of Asheville, $1,000. City of Statesville, $2,000. And as you guys have, you have tons more of those. Okie doke. As I watched a rerun on Compass Cable on December the 6th of the City Council meeting, I noted that you, Mr. Mayor, expressed a desperate need for new businesses in Morganton. Let's do a little what if. Suppose there's a $20 million company wanting to locate in our area. And are we going to look at, 1, Lincolnton, that has no privilege fee, 2, Statesville, where there's a $2,000 cap, 3, Greensboro, where there's a $1,200 cap, 4, Asheville, with a $1,000 cap, or 5, Morganton, where there's no cap? All these cities need more revenue. What city do you think they'll choose? This new law also does not take into account, for example, a $20 million manufacturing company with a loss, let's say $50,000, at the end of its fiscal year. They will still have to pay an additional $11,425 in privilege fees just to be here and to have the privilege to employ workers, pay taxes, create revenue for the community. Mr. Mayor, you asked me where we could generate revenue. And here is, I have no idea if you can legally do this, but if we can do this privilege thing, I think we can just make something else up. This came to me Sunday morning while in church, honest to Pete, and I wrote it on the back of a collection fee. It's called the SERF program, S-E-R-F. Well, actually, I've got to find the rest of my thing here. Okay, it's called the SERF program. It's called, bear with me.
You were still asleep?
No, probably. I think I've skipped a whole page here, Mel. Bear with me.
But let me.
You don't want me to skip a whole
while
page.
He's finding that.
Go ahead, I
Gene,
did. Go ahead.
Gene Riggs, you came in late. Yes. I don't know how many other people came in late, but we have had a motion and passed by the city council to revisit with statistics from towns, with the statistics of the forms that y'all sent in with no check that we have to have by January 31st to revisit the percentages and all. Okay? I don't know whether you heard that or not. Okay. And sign in. There's a sheet going around. Please sign that in and put your name and the company you're with. Anyone else in here that came in late? Gina, CF, I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. I got my pages back now. Okay. Thank you. Just for a bunch of politicians. I think I've got all my pages.
That happens to me sometimes.
Oh, it happens. It happens. And if you're as disorganized as I am, it happens all the time. Okay. All right, Mr. Mayor, you asked me where we could generate revenue. Here it goes. Abolish the new city business privilege tax, fee, license, whatever you want to call it. We can put up a new SERF fund called a separate emergency relief fund. Again, if we can make up rules with the legislature, I figure we can make up local rules. Proposal, a $2.50 surcharge on each local power bill for a year on all residences. There's approximately 7,500 residences in this town. At maximum capacity, that would be $225,000 worth of income, which pretty much surpasses that $50,000. Okay?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Mayor, I did leave out this one calculation here. Of that $150 million worth of minimum on the calculations that Ms. Duckworth has, that would approximately be $90,000 in fees, just from the small group that was at my place. Okay, back to point, SERF tax. $2.50 on the bottom of the power bill, with an explanation on the power bill, a little letter saying, we need some money. We need to provide services to this town. This town needs fire. This town needs police. This town needs services. I'm 110% with you, okay? I've used them myself. You know that. A $10 SERF on all. There's the key word. I can go back to Webster's if you want me to, but all businesses. This will be 5 times more than the original $25 privilege license. This special emergency relief fund. I don't believe anyone should have a problem since we all need these services. This tax would simply be one more line item on the power bill. It would not take any extra manpower to, like a reevaluation for a property tax. It's just one more printed line. Take a look at it at the end of the next year. Take a look at how much revenue you can generate by charging businesses, all businesses, $10 extra a month as an emergency fund. Now that's my recommendation 1. Recommendation 2. For the Schedule A, for the gross receipts, $100 flat fee plus 10 cents on every 1,000, prorated on every million with a cap of 10 million, or a flat max cap of $1,000.
Say that again.
Okay. $100 flat fee on the first million. Anything above a million, 10 cents on 1,000 versus the 60 cents on 1,000 now. That would be $100 per million. $100 per million with a maximum of 10 million, which would be a maximum $1,000 for that new privilege fee. That pretty much covers everything I got now. Mr. Mayor, I can assure you that I have not been after you. I promise. You know that.
You haven't been up here any longer than I thought you would be.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've never been to a city council meeting, but I take this to heart. I, too, love this little community. You told me that over the phone. I too recognize we need these services. But I just wholeheartedly, at what WBTV came to the office and asked me, I said it's wrong in principle. And I thoroughly and completely believe that. Thank you.
Thank you, CF.
And I won the pool on you not having on socks.
I said you were going to wear Bermudas. Okay. Now remember, Gary. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Gary Julian. I'm representing Molded Fiberglass Industries, and I live at 110 Parkland in Morganton. I do want to thank you very much for agreeing to reconsider the fee structure. I think that was one of the things that the group really cared about. I suggest that when you do review the structure, that there be some business input into whatever group it is that's reviewing that, to get sort of the feeling of the business community. From what information I've seen, the consultants didn't give us enough information to really make the decision that you, out of necessity, did, when you passed it back in December. From when we ask a question, and if nobody knows how many businesses are involved in this new tax or this new fee, it would seem like a consultant would have given you that. So somewhere there's a lack of information in the background. And so I think if you had some business input into the group, you could see that, the $50,000 for the first 6 months of the year, that'd be a half year's fees, is, I think, crazy low. I would expect Walmart's fee would be $50,000. So you're making decisions with really bad information. On the other side of the coin too, or of the issue, you're looking at, and it appears the consultants were asked to look at how to get more revenue. I don't feel that the community in general, or the business community in particular, is convinced and is comfortable that you've looked at enough cuts of expenses. And maybe you have, but maybe we don't know about it. Most everybody that was in the meeting there the other night, and most everybody that's in this room from a business, has taken pay cuts of like 30%. I know in the case of Molded Fiberglass, they discontinued the company matching of a portion of your 401k. So there's been deep cuts in businesses, and we don't really have any information to know how much cuts there's been in your budget. It seems like our budget is disproportionately high from what I'm told, and it's secondhand information, but like compared to Hickory. With the numbers that I was given, it looks like we spend over $3,000 per capita in our budget, and Hickory spends like $1,100 per capita in their budget. If that's true, that seems to be very disproportionate.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
One reason for that is that Hickory does not have an electric system. and they don't sell electricity, and that's the largest part of our budget. That's about $28 million of our budget, the electric fund alone.
Yeah. It
And-
could be, but if we had, if there was some dialogue
Right. And they do
among
not
yourselves
have
and the
cable.
business community,
Yeah.
you know, we'd feel better about that.
We have about $32 million in cable, in the Compass cable and the electric fund, which are services that Hickory does not provide.
Yeah, and if we're all convinced that that's the right proportion and they're the right per person, you know, then that's good. The other thing that I would want to address is I'm very proud to be in Morganton. I love being here. I've been here since 1988 from up north, and this is a great place to live. But maybe right now we can't have all of the good things that we really want to have. I mean, we might have to just cut back. And I don't, until you really look at what's absolutely necessary as compared to what's really nice, we might have to give away some of the things that are really nice. I used to drive a Cadillac, but now I drive a Sebring. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Good evening. My name is Mike Murphy. I'm Vice President of Operations representing Leviton Manufacturing Company. They're located at 113 Industrial Boulevard. Not only do I represent Leviton, I represent the 500 families that work there. And with taxes like this, it's very challenging for me to provide the leadership that they need to take care of their families. Now, many of you know Leviton is Southern Devices, and we manufacture switches and receptacles. Very competitive market. Everybody knows what's going on with copper, silver, gold, which is included in all of those components. And on Wednesday of this week, I'm scheduled to go to New York to ask for funding to manufacture the GFCI here in Morganton. And I think all of you know what a GFCI is. And for the thought that this would be the only manufacturing facility in the continental U.S. making that product, I think says a lot. Number one, for the company, and two, for the people that are here. And as we continue to compete, it's taxes like this that makes my job very difficult. Now you can say, well, you're looking at it selfishly. Probably true to some degree, but those of us that work for other companies, that we don't own our own companies, our measurement and our MBOs are different. We get measured on our cost of goods. And as our cost of goods increase, normally sales decrease in return. So I appreciate the fact that you're reconsidering what you are attempting to impose here. And as Mr. Hopkins said, and he identified some of the caps, he had more information than I've got. And I certainly appreciate that. But also I want you to consider the 500 families that I'm standing here representing as well. Because it's very difficult for me to go and ask for millions of dollars in funding for this automation project, because I'm competing with China. I'm competing with Mexico. I'm responsible for 2 Mexican facilities located in Tijuana today. That's part of my responsibility. I travel every 3 weeks going there, trying to make them profitable. And me, as an employee, going to the corporate headquarters and asking for this funding and asking them to put those dollars in Morganton is very important. They're important to Leviton Manufacturing Company located in Jamestown Road. So I ask for your reconsideration, and I appreciate your reconsideration. Thank you.
Mike, thank you for being here, and I want you to tell the people in New York, you can have the CFO call me, and we'll do a conference call with Sally and myself. We'd welcome to talk to them.
Okay. And by the way, that funding would bring in 20 to 30 jobs. It's not huge. It's total automation. It's about a 12-month project, and we're really excited about it. But again, it's very difficult for me to get on that plane Wednesday to go ask for this funding knowing that this is hanging over my head.
You have my word, you don't have to worry. Okay? You have more to worry about getting on that plane than you do what we're going to do. Okay?
Counting on it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, fellow council members. My name is Michael McNally, and I'm the President and CEO of the Burke County Chamber of Commerce. And I want to come to you tonight. This new privilege license fee schedule was brought to my attention last week with grave concerns by many people in our business community, not only some people from the 450 business members that we have affiliated with the Chamber of Commerce, but other businesses, organizations throughout the community, that this new schedule does have a big effect on. And I think the numbers that were discussed, as mentioned earlier, with the consultant, I'm a little shocked with some of the numbers. I've talked to two companies that alone would hit the number that you're talking about for the entire year. And they're very concerned with a lot of these figures. Again, we, in the business community, myself, I don't know if I want to be in your shoes. I know that cities across the country are having a difficult time right now, obviously with revenue being the way it is. I appreciate the motion that was made tonight, and thank you for taking more time to look into this and bring this with more revisions, hopefully, in the future. I would love to see this schedule taken off completely, but understand that might not be a possibility. Would hope that you'll be able to listen and take some input from people in the business community, because not only would this have a direct impact with those businesses that are not exempt, this would have an effect also, as you can imagine, on civic and nonprofit organizations in our community. I mean, these are going to be real dollars that affect a lot of people. We're looking, obviously, for any opportunity to attract new companies, but more importantly, we need to keep the companies that we have here in Morganton as sustainable and healthy as possible. And right now they're going through times that are unprecedented for them as they are for any municipality or government organization. And we ask that you please take the time to really look into these, get as hard numbers as you can. I say that at the same time, a little concerned with wanting to get all these numbers to then figure out what the future calculation could be. Once you figure out what you could get, then we see what the new number will be. That's a concern of mine as well. But there needs to be something that's beneficial to everybody involved. And I would love to be at the table if there are other people brought in to talk about this and try to figure out problems and how to solve them. But as far as this overall structure and the schedule as is currently laid out, again, thank you for taking the time to look at it more. But we really cannot, in these times, afford to have this pushed on to the business community as it's so laid out. Thank you.
Michael, I appreciate your comments. Question. I'd like for you to have the two companies call me, as I told Mr. Murphy. I'd like to have you have them call me up. My number's always listed in the phone book, and I'm always available. Concern I've got is, like I told Michael Fullenwater, you came from Hickory, you live in Hickory. They've been paying it 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, we're doing something that hadn't been done since early 60s, and it's hard. We're going to do our job.
Oh, I
The only thing
understand.
I'm going to tell you is, and CF has given me a lot of food for thought, but it grieves me to know that nobody in Hickory stood up 16 years ago, and they didn't.
Hickory does have a cap. Am I mistaken on that, of $2,000?
No, the Hickory's had a.
But a cap on this license, correct?
But
Well, the
yes.
company I spoke to, that saves them six figures. That cap of $2,000 would save them six figures.
Have them call me,
I will definitely do that.
please.
Thank you.
But it does concern me. There are a lot. We're not doing anything different.
Hickory has a cap on wholesalers,
Only.
not
Only.
on retailers,
Okay.
I
Well,
believe.
what about manufacturing?
They do not have a cap
No.
on manufacturing.
Not at all on manufacturing.
Okay.
Okay, because that's what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mentioned it to Edward, I believe.
And to Michael,
that,
you did.
you know, and that's been going on for many, many years, almost 2 decades. And what grieves me is to know all these good people in here, 2 attorneys, and all these good people are concerned, and I'm concerned. That's why we're going back to the well
Okay.
and look at it. But my concern is that we've got a city to run, and we've got things to do, and You
And,
know,
like I said, I can only imagine the painstaking, the time you folks have put into it. At the same time, we're here representing the companies that are in Morganton, not in Hickory.
I know.
So their structure is the least of my concerns at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, sir.
My name's Butch Duckworth, Howard Duckworth. I'm one of the owners of Burke Pharmacy, and I live in Hildebrand. My big concern is, as I hate to say this again, as Charlie said, as CF said, fair and equitable. What's fair and equitable about charging a certain number of companies this fee when all the rest of the companies are not being, all the rest of the businesses are not being charged? And my attorney's here. I'm going to say this in front of him. Attorneys are not being charged. Doctors are not being charged. Other places are not being charged. Do something like the surf thing Charlie said and charge every single business associate in the city a certain fee instead of trying to get all of us out. The company I represent has been in business since the 1920s. It's gone through separate hands. Whenever we bought the store in 1982, our net profit was 8%. Our net profit right now is less than 1%. That's not any of your business either. I'm sorry. I know you don't care. Well, you do care too, but that's the way it is.
We do.
We have been hit with insurance companies telling us what we can and can't do. I keep telling everybody when they walk in, well, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? I say, insurance companies run my business. The only thing I can do myself is know how many times I can go to the bathroom a day. They tell me what I can use, how much I can charge, and basically right now, $1.50 a prescription don't get too far. My employees did not get a regular Christmas bonus this year because I did not have the money to do it. And another $3,600, $4,000 a year is just going to put me that much farther down. So I think, like Charles said, it needs to be fair and equitable across the board for all business, not just us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Trent Toner with Toner Machining. Live at 203 Silver Creek Road. I wasn't really going to speak tonight, but after listening to everyone, I just wanted to point out one thing that's just kind of scaring me is on that projections of how much revenue you were actually going to collect. I believe you said $100,000. And I'm not sure if anyone from Caterpillar is here this evening, but they're a public company, so I don't mind sharing information on them. That plant does about $15 million a month. There's your $100,000, basically. So how your consultant, or I'm not sure if they're here tonight, how they developed their numbers. I'd be very interested in reviewing that as to how you guys are off by the magnitude that you are. And I have no doubt that there's going to be a cap put in place. But that worries me as well because the company's doing $150 million a year. They're going to save $100,000. They're going to be thrilled that they've only got to pay a $5,000 cap. But the company's doing $10 million a year. We're not going to be so thrilled about a $5,000 fee. It's basically going to take large corporations and companies with a lot of volume. We're going to give them a cap. They're going to pay a low percentage. The smaller corporations in the $10 million range, they're not going to hit the cap. We're just going to carry the whole burden for the entire increase. So I'd just like for you guys to consider that, and to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Trent. Appreciate it.
I'm Richard Owensby. I live at 102 Montrose Street. We have Table Rock Pharmacy, my wife and I, and we're on West Fleming Drive. I don't really have any prepared response per se. I did have just a couple questions. There's 5 independent pharmacies inside the city limits of Morganton, I think, and I think we'll all be affected. There's probably not a pharmacy out there has sales under $1 million a year. We wouldn't be in business. Our business is such, like Butch said, that we basically don't make any decisions about what we sell anything for except for our aspirin and our toothpaste. We have people come in and they are getting a prescription that cost us $4,000. They're paying $10 for it, and the insurance is paying us basically $4,000 and $40 on top of that. I talked to someone at the city, and they said, "Well, just pass the fee along to your customers." We can't do that. It's not legal for us to add on a 50-cent surcharge on every prescription that comes in, because the insurance company contracts don't let us do that. So this would basically come out of our bottom line. Our fee is going from, on the original letter, is going from $25 to almost $4,000 a year, which is a big increase percentage-wise, and that basically comes out of our pocket. That comes out of our gross profits, if there are any, and if there aren't, it still comes out of our pockets. Works out that's about what we give to local charities in Morganton, and business is not a bottomless pocket. If we're paying that money out, it's got to be spoken for somewhere else. So I'm sure that the charities in Burke County and Morganton that we have been able to fund, we're not going to be able to fund, at least to the degree that we have in the past, and that hurts everybody, especially the most vulnerable in our community. I do have a question, like a couple other people have said, as to where the consultants come up with these numbers. They're obviously off by maybe a factor of 100. I have a question. I don't know if this is public knowledge or if we could find out. Evidently, the consultant said there's no charge except for the increased revenues that are generated. And if he is charging a flat fee or if there's a percentage, if he's getting 1% of the fee, it makes it look better if he says this is going to increase your income by $100,000, he's getting paid $1,000. If it increases the fees increase by as much as $10 million, he's getting $100,000. That's pretty good income for probably the amount of time he put into this. And I don't know if you could address that.
Yes, the contract says that for 2 years, he gets half of the new income generated.
So if we're able to generate...
And I will tell you that that's fairly standard practice. We've had a sales tax audit and similar services. But
I'm just wondering if he intentionally lowballed that $100,000, knowing full well that Walmart would be paying $100,000, and sold you a pig in a poke, and he's saying, yeah, this is going to generate $100,000, and you give me $50,000 of it, but in truth, it generates $30 million, and he gets $15 million. You know, I like to get in his business, and
yeah.
And nobody's telling me quite so much what I can charge. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Richard.
That one sucked all the oxygen out of the air. Ask the two lawyers if they won't talk. Close it. Ask the two lawyers if they won't talk. Close it.
Doc, you want to say anything?
I'm here observing.
Okay.
I would have a question, if you don't mind.
Come up to the mic if you would, and just state your name.
My name is Dr. Teal, and I live at 213 Riverside Drive and practice law here. And I'm just interested in this more as a member of the community and what it might do to the community's base and health of it. But just listening and reading what I understand the statute to say is, it sounded very confusing listening to the answers of how you might go into a tax return and figure out what part is subject to this tax and what part is not. It sounds like a lot of work for accountants to try to even come up with the computations for a complex business to determine what the taxes should be based on. And it doesn't seem to be limited to things that are done within the community. It talks about the industry, but I have clients who have plants in other cities, but if you take a literal reading of the letter, it talks about their revenues off their tax return, and they don't file multiple tax returns. So I just wonder how clear it is to the community in trying to understand what's subject to the tax. And
Doc, the ordinance, I'll answer that simply enough. The ordinance is, it's only on what's produced here in Morganton. We don't tax anything that's done in Hickory or outside of the city limits of Morganton.
And so if for example,
he prorates it.
If CF is a broker and he ships material from Hickory to Mooresville, it doesn't count?
No, that sale is here.
Well,
And CF will tell you that sale is here, but.
Well, that's the concern I have. If a manufacturing plant manufactures something, they get paid here, even though it's not manufactured here. And I'm just asking, I have not
That
taken
manufacturer
the
gets
time
to
to
exclude what's produced in other communities.
I'm glad to hear that's clear, because it was not made clear when I asked questions earlier about it. But I do think it needs a lot of additional work, and glad to hear that y'all are open to looking at the consequences and how it might be better written to bring in the kind of revenue you need.
Thank you, Doc. John?
My name is John Jockinen. I'm the president of E.J. Victor Furniture. I live at 207 Riverside Drive. As you know, the furniture industry is a broken industry and has been for the last several years. There are only 3 manufacturers left in Morganton that manufacture wood product: Gordon Guyan, Don Wright, and ourselves. It's disturbing to me because I view this tax as very much of a discriminatory nature and a very onerous one on top of that. If you were paid on revenues versus income, there is a big difference. And I doubt that many people in the furniture industry and manufacturing in the States made a profit last year. Very few made a profit this year or in 2010. From what I just heard by your counsel, that if we chose to manufacture or buy all of our product in Vietnam or Asia, that we would not be subject to tax. That's disturbing. We're trying to keep jobs here in Morganton. We are subsidizing our employees. We could make a lot more profit if we bought everything offshore. We choose not to do that. So I ask the council to take that into consideration. I appreciate your openness in considering some options, and I know Gordon and feels the same way. We're all in the same boat. We're fighting and clawing every day, and we want to be able to be in business for many, many years to come. So,
thank you, John. Anyone else? I greatly appreciate everybody coming tonight. Wayne, you don't want to talk? You don't have to. No, you don't have to, Wayne. I just didn't want to, somebody's paying you to be here tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking me. The problem is with our business and the pharmacy business. I believe the pharmacy business is excluded. I believe they are not subject to the tax that is proposed. Now, you may have a different notion about that, but I've had a long discussion with your council with it, and I'm prepared for us to continue to do our research, and then we'll have a report to make in a more formal way. But at this juncture, I believe that the pharmacy are excluded because they're in the healthcare business, and they're in the business, and I think they're excluded just like lawyers are, land architects are. Other folks in our community that are excluded for those very same reasons. So, but I'm pleased to be here, and it's nice. It's a nice meeting, even though we can't agree on what you guys are going to have to do about this. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here and the concern of all of you.
Mighty nice, Wayne. Thank you very much.
I told Sonny earlier today when he talked to me that if he has some law, I hope I'm subject to being educated, if he had some law that excluded the pharmacy, and we can verify that, they'll be excluded because we're going to follow the law no matter what. But I'm not aware of that law yet, and so he's going to have to educate me.
Wayne, he has 2 books on his shelf. He gave you the one that's not true, and he's got the one that's true. Anyone else? I greatly appreciate everybody coming tonight. I really do, and I thank you for being respectful, because CF set the tone, and I appreciate him setting the tone for us. And if you have any questions, Richard called me. I've had a number of people call me. I have no problem with you calling me anytime, or any of the members of the city council. That's what we're here for, our city staff. Please do that. Thank you, and have a safe trip back to your home.
You gonna adjourn?
See you. Thank you.